In a cozy little house at the end of Maple Street, there lived a family who loved their dog more than anything else in the world. His name was Max, and he was a golden retriever with a shiny coat that gleamed in the sunlight. Every morning, as soon as the sun peeked through the curtains, Max would bounce around the living room, wagging his tail like a fluffy metronome. The children, Emily and Jake, would giggle and join him in a game of chase, their laughter echoing through the halls. Max was friendly with everyone. Whenever visitors came to the house, whether they were friends, neighbors, or even delivery people, Max would greet them with an enthusiastic jump and an invitation to play. He loved belly rubs and often rolled over on his back, hoping for some gentle scratches. His big brown eyes sparkled with joy as if he knew just how special these moments were. Every weekend, the family would take Max to the local park. There, he thrived amid other dogs and their owners. He ran freely, chasing after frisbees and bouncing around with his furry pals. Max loved to show off his tricks, sitting on command, spinning in circles, and catching treats mid-air. Everyone adored him. It was hard not to smile when you saw him happily bounding from person to person, soaking up all the love and attention. One chilly afternoon, while playing fetch in the backyard, something caught Max's attention behind the house. He hesitated as he sniffed the air, ears perked up. Curious about what might be happening out of sight, Jake called him back to join their game. With a playful bark and an enthusiastic wag of his tail, Max returned, but not without stealing another glance at whatever had intrigued him. As much as Max loved being around people and other animals, there was still one thing that puzzled the family, one room in their house that Max never entered. It was a small storage room at the end of the hallway, tucked away behind a wooden door with peeling paint. The room hardly seemed special on the outside. It looked like any other storage space filled with old boxes and forgotten toys. But whenever Max approached that door, he would stop short. The first time this behavior was noticed was when Emily playfully encouraged him to go inside during a family get-together. "Come on, Max. It's just a room," she called out while stroking his fur. But instead of walking through the door like everyone expected him to, he simply sat down right in front of it, looking back at her with his head tilted slightly to one side as if he were trying to say something. 4 months after that, this odd habit became a source of amusement for the family. Whenever they passed by that room together, whether it was bringing in groceries or just heading to get some toys, they would always tease Max about being scared of it. "Are you afraid of the spooky room?" Jake would say with a grin, earning laughter from Emily and their parents. The family made silly jokes about how Max thought ghosts lived inside, or that maybe it was full of frightening vacuum cleaners set to jump out at any moment. Each time they laughed it off as merely quirky behavior from their friendly dog. They didn't think much of it since he remained gentle and loving toward everyone else. In fact, their evenings were often filled with laughter as they remembered how many times they had tried coaxing him into that room with treats or his favorite toy, always to no avail. Family members would often take bets on how long it would take before he finally summoned enough courage to step inside, but each time they were wrong because he wouldn't budge an inch. Max seemed comfortable everywhere else in the house, lounging on couches during movie nights or curling up next to anyone reading a book. He especially enjoyed snuggling up with Emily while she did her homework at the dining table, his soft head resting against her legs as if cheering her on silently. As days turned into months and months into years, this strange behavior became just another amusing aspect of their vibrant home life. Even with his odd refusal to enter the room, Max's reputation among friends and visitors remained untarnished. He was still regarded as the friendly neighborhood dog who had never met a stranger. However, subtle changes began unfolding around that same room over time, changes that no one paid much attention to, but somehow Max seemed aware of what lay beyond that door before anyone else did. Strange sounds occasionally drifted through its walls, thumps or rustles late at night that made Emily wonder if she should do something about it. But each time she thought about checking it out further, she couldn't shake off her mind's whispers reminding her of what Max felt instinctively. It wasn't anything unusual for children to create tall tales about noises in dark places, a common thread sewn into their imaginations, but this odd dynamic between her beloved pet and this strange space left her intrigued nonetheless. She began spending quiet moments pondering why Max always opted out from exploring in there while delighting everyone everywhere else. Days turned into weeks without resolution until one sunny afternoon when an unexpected event occurred that changed everything. One moment that finally connected Emily's growing curiosity with everything she had experienced alongside Max. All those playful memories collided within a heartbeat, It felt like destiny strung together every moment, leading them toward deeper understanding. And so began a journey toward understanding, a journey where Emily faced truths waiting patiently behind that mysterious door, which Max always seemed comforted not to enter long before she could ever realize what lay beyond its threshold. The small storage room at the end of the hallway was an unassuming part of the family home, yet it stood out like a peculiar puzzle piece that didn't quite fit. With its wooden door painted a faded green, flaking at the edges and adorned with rusty hinges, it seemed to carry an air of mystery. The paint had long lost its bright hue, replaced by patches of dullness that whispered stories of neglect. Unlike the other rooms filled with warmth and laughter, this door seemed cold and uninviting. Inside, the room was dimly lit and cluttered with forgotten items. Stacks of old boxes piled high reached almost to the ceiling, filled with toys long outgrown and seasonal decorations that hadn't seen daylight in years. There were dusty shelves crammed with books covered in cobwebs, their spines cracked from age, while an old bicycle sat silently in one corner, its tires deflated and its once vibrant paint now faded. The oddest thing about this room was not just its contents but rather how it felt different from the rest of the home. Where the living room buzzed with energy and laughter echoed off the walls, this space felt heavy and still. Even when sunlight streamed through a small window at the top of the wall, illuminating patches on the floor, it didn't seem to brighten up the atmosphere inside. Instead, there was an eerie quietness, almost as if time had stopped within those four walls. Max always sensed this distinction whenever he wandered near. His instincts kicked in before he even approached, his tail would stop wagging as he neared that door. It was puzzling for everyone else because Max was never shy or scared around people or other animals. He loved exploring every nook and cranny of their home except for this one particular spot. One day, while everyone was busy preparing for a family gathering, Emily decided to take a closer look at what lay beyond that door herself. Curiosity bubbled inside her like a simmering pot as she walked down the hallway toward it. She glanced back to see if anyone was watching before she reached out to turn the doorknob. As her fingers touched the cool metal handle, she hesitated. Something about that moment made her heart race. She could hear muffled sounds behind it, a faint rustling noise that seemed to whisper secrets meant only for her ears. It sent shivers down her spine but also ignited her adventurous spirit. In her mind's eye danced images of treasures hidden away or perhaps even an old story waiting to be uncovered. But then she remembered Max's behavior, the way he'd sit right outside that door and refuse to move any closer no matter how much coaxing they did. It made her pause again. Was there really something scary lurking beyond? What if there really were ghosts or something worse? The thought made her stomach turn, so she quickly backed away from the door and returned to where everyone else was laughing and chatting. Later that evening, while tucking herself into bed after a lively family dinner, Emily couldn't shake off thoughts of that mysterious room from her mind. Wondering what guarded those shadows behind it kept pulling at her curiosity like a playful tug-of-war game she didn't want to lose. Over time, Emily noticed more changes around that room, subtle shifts in atmosphere whenever they passed by it together as a family. Sometimes they'd hear creaks or distant thumps late at night while getting ready for bed. Every sound caused goosebumps to rise on her arms and made Max's ears perk up once again as if he sensed something they couldn't see. The rest of her family brushed off these occurrences as mere house noises, nothing out of the ordinary, but deep down inside, Emily felt differently each time they happened. She knew there was more than met their eyes surrounding that storage area. As days turned into weeks filled with laughter shared among family members during movie nights or board games played around dining tables full of delicious meals prepared together, it became apparent just how much life thrived elsewhere while this one solitary place remained untouched, a stark contrast against everything vibrant they loved about their home life together. Max's unwavering avoidance lingered in their minds, even when jokes continued about what might lie inside his spooky room. Both parents often exchanged knowing glances without saying anything aloud, as though holding on to secrets far too big for words alone could ever explain them fully, or perhaps even acknowledging them would invite some uncomfortable truths right into their cozy little world. It wasn't until one sunny afternoon during summer vacation when Emily's adventurous spirit finally took over completely again, a moment when fate would intertwine all threads leading toward revelations waiting just beyond whispered walls. With determination burning brightly within her heart like fireflies glowing against twilight skies, she found herself strolling back down toward that enigmatic door once more, this time feeling bolder than ever before, and ready not only to confront whatever lay behind but also discover why Max had known all along never to venture further than what his instincts warned him against. As the days turned into weeks and weeks into months, Max's peculiar aversion to the storage room became a source of endless amusement for the family. Every time they passed by that door, Emily and Jake would giggle and tease Max as if he were an overdramatic character in a play. "Look out, everyone! It's the spooky room!" Jake would announce in a mock-serious voice, making exaggerated gestures that sent the family into fits of laughter. One evening, during a cozy family game night, the topic of Max's strange behavior came up once again. Emily and Jake, eager to entertain their parents, decided to put on a little skit. They pretended to be brave explorers about to enter the forbidden room while Max looked on from a safe distance, his tail wagging low but his body tense. "Prepare yourselves for the unknown," Emily exclaimed dramatically, clutching an imaginary flashlight as she inched toward the door. Jake joined in, calling out, "What if there are ghosts? Or worse, vacuum cleaners?" They both burst into laughter at this silly thought since Max had always shown a strong dislike for the vacuum cleaner, barking at it as if it were a terrifying creature instead of a household appliance. The family found it hilarious how serious Max looked as he sat in the hallway, his head cocked to one side, watching their antics with wide eyes. He seemed to understand that they were joking but still held on to his decision not to enter that room. This only made the family laugh harder, and they began to place bets on how long it would take him to muster the courage to step inside. "I give him 2 years," Emily joked one day, winking at her brother. Another time, while preparing for a birthday party, Max's refusal to cross the threshold turned into an entertaining focal point of their preparations. The family decided to decorate the storage room door with colorful balloons and a big sign reading "Caution, spooky room ahead." They giggled at the idea of making it look inviting while still playfully warning their dog away. "Maybe this will tempt him to go inside," Jake said with a grin as he hung up the decorations. However, when they called Max over to check out his new spooky room, he trotted toward them only to stop dead in his tracks at the door. He sniffed the air and let out a confused whine, as if trying to communicate that he just couldn't bring himself to go in, no matter what they did. The family laughed heartily at his reaction. "Looks like those balloons didn't work," Emily exclaimed, wiping tears of laughter from her eyes. They all agreed that Max had an unwavering sense of caution that was both endearing and amusing. One particularly memorable moment happened during a family barbecue in the backyard. As they grilled burgers and hot dogs, Emily decided to bring Max some leftovers as a treat. "Let's see if our brave pup will fetch his prize from the spooky room," she called out with a laugh. She tossed a piece of grilled meat toward the door and watched with anticipation. Max dashed after it but skidded to a halt right before the doorway, staring at the small gap where the door met the frame. He looked back at Emily with wide eyes and a comically furrowed brow, clearly torn between his love for food and his fear of the unknown. The family erupted into laughter again as they watched him bounce back and forth like a cartoon character unsure of what to do. "Come on, Max. It's just food," Jake encouraged, trying to coax him forward. But Max merely sat down, letting out an exaggerated sigh as if he were saying, "Why must you make me face my fears for bacon?" Finally, Emily walked over and picked up the treat herself, bringing it back to him with a smile. "See? No ghosts here," she said while giving him a scratch behind his ears. Max happily gobbled up the food with his tail wagging furiously now that he was safe outside of that threshold. Their light-hearted approach toward Max's quirks helped create many joyous memories for the family. It was all part of what made their home feel lively and warm, the playful teasing, shared laughter, and bonding over their beloved dog's antics. Whenever guests came over, they'd be sure to share funny stories about Max's relationship with that mysterious room. Friends would chuckle along with them as Emily recounted tales of their comedic attempts to lure him inside or how he'd watched them with cautious curiosity from afar. To everyone outside their family circle, it was an amusing tale of a friendly dog who had a comically serious fear of one small room. Despite how entertaining it was for them all, no one quite understood why Max refused to enter that storage space. Even though they found joy in his antics and laughed about it endlessly, there was still an unspoken acknowledgement among them that there might be something deeper behind his hesitation, something more than just silly jokes about ghosts or vacuum cleaners. Months went by filled with laughter and lightheartedness until eventually, Emily's curiosity would lead her back towards that door once more. It was during one of those quieter moments when she felt compelled not only to confront its mystery but also discover why Max had stayed clear of it all along. As the months rolled on, the family began to notice subtle but strange occurrences around the storage room that added to their curiosity. It was no longer just Max's unwavering reluctance to enter that piqued their interest. Odd sounds and oddities started to emerge, making them wonder what they had overlooked all this time. One evening, as the family settled down for a movie night, a soft thumping noise echoed through the hallway. It was faint at first, but it grew more pronounced, drawing Emily's attention away from the screen. "Did you hear that?" she whispered to Jake, who nodded thoughtfully. The sound seemed to come from behind the closed door of the storage room. Max, who had been lounging next to them on the floor, perked up at the noise and glanced toward the door with wide eyes. His ears stood straight up, and he let out a low whine that sent shivers down Emily's spine. "There it is again," she exclaimed softly. Their parents exchanged glances but brushed it off as they usually did, merely old house noises. However, this wasn't an isolated incident. Over the following weeks, every so often at night when the house was quiet, strange sounds would drift through the walls, rustling noises, faint whispers like a breeze blowing through dried leaves, or even what sounded like footsteps. Each time Max would react in his usual way, sitting up straight with his tail tucked under him as he stared toward that door. It became increasingly clear to Emily that something unusual was happening beyond it. During one particularly stormy night, lightning flashed outside and illuminated the hallway for just a moment. To their surprise, they all saw shadows shifting within the storage room, a fleeting glimpse that sent everyone into a flurry of excitement and fear. "What was that?" Jake asked wide-eyed. "It looked like something moved." The family huddled together in laughter mixed with nervousness as they cautiously approached the door to peer through its small window. But nothing stirred when they got close, only darkness stared back at them as rain pattered against the roof above. Max remained steadfastly cautious beside them while they pressed their faces closer together for a better look. "Maybe there's treasure in there," Emily joked playfully despite her heart racing with trepidation. But deep down inside her mind lingered questions about what could really be lurking beyond the threshold, what secrets had been hidden away all this time. Eventually, their curiosity about those strange happenings grew stronger than their fears. Emily and Jake decided it was time to investigate further. They organized a family expedition one Saturday morning while their parents were busy cleaning up around the house. Armed with flashlights and plenty of snacks for energy, just in case, they gathered near the storage room door once more. "Ready for our adventure?" Jake asked dramatically, mimicking an explorer from one of their favorite movies. "Let's do it," Emily replied confidently, although her heart beat faster with anticipation. They took turns shining their flashlights through cracks in between boxes piled high inside while trying not to scare Max too much. He remained uncertain but curious enough to stay close by without backing away entirely as he usually did. As they rummaged through old toys and decorations long forgotten behind dusty shelves, they found many interesting items, including an old board game missing half its pieces and faded pictures of family trips taken years ago, but nothing unusual or alarming, yet still those odd noises persisted in her mind like echoes from another world altogether. Days turned into weeks filled with playful yet cautious exploration whenever they dared approach that door together, but every single time Max would stop short at its entrance while letting out soft whines as if reminding them of his instincts warning against going too far inside. His behavior continued to intrigue Emily more than ever before. One afternoon, while sitting quietly at home after school with Jake nearby flipping through channels on TV, she thought back over everything she'd observed so far. The sounds echoing late at night combined with Max's steadfast refusal didn't feel coincidental anymore, they felt linked somehow, and she realized she needed answers. Determined now more than ever before about understanding why her beloved dog sensed dangers unknown even before any of them could begin piecing together clues, it became clear that there must be something significant within reach waiting patiently behind those walls. With newfound resolve sparking inside her heart like kindling catching fire, Emily decided it was time for a real investigation, a moment she hoped would bring closure not only for herself but also finally provide insight into Max's uncanny intuition, that one little room which had become such an enigma over these past few years. Over 2 years had passed since the family first noticed Max's peculiar avoidance of the storage room. However, that day was unlike any other, as it marked a significant turning point for Emily. She had recently turned 12 and was starting to see the world through a different lens, filled with curiosity and insight beyond her years. While most of the family continued to find humor in Max's behavior, Emily felt a growing sense of responsibility to uncover the truth about what lay beyond that faded green door. It was a rainy Sunday afternoon when everything changed. The skies were heavy with clouds, casting muted shadows across the living room where the family gathered for a cozy afternoon. They had set up a small movie marathon to keep entertained indoors, snuggled up in blankets with popcorn scattered around. Max, of course, lounged on his favorite spot on the rug, happily munching on a chew toy. As the light flickered from the television, Emily's mind wandered back to that mysterious room down the hall. After watching an adventure movie that featured brave heroes exploring dark caves filled with treasures and secrets, she couldn't shake off her inspiration. The film rekindled memories of her playful explorations with Jake and their attempts to coax Max into the storage room. "It's just an old storage space," she told herself, but something stronger nagged at her, the urge to discover what had been hidden there all along. Driven by her newfound determination, Emily ate quickly and set her half-finished bag of popcorn aside. "Hey, guys! I'm going to take a look at the storage room," she called out to Jake and her parents, who exchanged amused glances but did not protest. With a swift determination, she walked toward the hallway. As she approached the door, her heart began to race, not from fear but from excitement. She paused for a moment, remembering how amused they had all been about Max's reluctance. Was it really just playful fears? As she reached for the handle, Max lifted his head and let out a soft whine. It was as though he sensed something profound in that moment, which startled her slightly. "It's okay, buddy," Emily reassured him softly as she gripped the doorknob more firmly. She opened it just enough to peek inside and shine her flashlight into the shadows beyond. With cautious curiosity, Emily stepped inside, letting the door creak open wider behind her. As her eyes adjusted to the dim light, she allowed herself to explore the contents of the cluttered room more closely than ever before. Dust particles danced in the light of her flashlight as she shifted through boxes filled with old toys, some belonging to Jake when he was little, and worn-out holiday decorations that all seemed to whisper tales of warm family gatherings. However, something caught her eye. Nestled in one corner was an old chest covered by an embroidered blanket that looked like it hadn't been touched in ages. She felt a tug of curiosity pulling her toward it, and as she drew nearer, memories flooded back to her from when they first moved into the house, the stories shared about previous owners and their personal treasures. Emily couldn't resist any longer. She carefully pulled back the blanket and let out an astonished gasp when she discovered stacks of old photographs resting neatly inside. A wide array of faces smiled back at her, pictures of families celebrating birthdays or enjoying picnics, all mixed together with snapshots depicting familiar moments from their own lives. Suddenly it struck her like lightning, these were not just forgotten relics, they were fragments of histories tied directly to their home and their family. The realization blossomed in her heart. Max might have sensed these echoes of stories long buried within those walls. Feeling a sense of reverence wash over her, Emily began flipping through the photographs with fascination. She noticed how some portraits included children who looked like they could be relatives of hers. It dawned upon her how intertwined lives could be within one home across generations. With each new photo came realizations about loss and love, the sadness and joy etched forever into the very fabric of their shelter, a safe haven filled with laughter intermingled alongside its ghosts faded by time. The soft rustling sounds that had haunted them for years were no longer just frightening noises, they were remnants of life that still lingered in those four corners. For Max, who had always been so sensitive to energy within spaces, his instinct became clearer than ever before. He sensed this deeper bond between their family history and emotions combined, and now so did she. In this moment of understanding, everything changed for Emily. Instead of treating Max's avoidance as mere quirkiness or fearfulness, she viewed it as intuition, an awareness that transcended words or actions, something significant lying beneath layers waiting patiently for someone willing to unearth them. As she turned around clutching several treasured photos in hand and stepped back outside into the hallway, Max wagged his tail softly, a mix of relief and acknowledgement shimmering in his eyes as if welcoming her into newfound realizations together. "Hey, Max," she called out excitedly. "I think I get it now." Emily hugged him tightly against her side as they walked back towards their family's cozy living room filled with laughter, all while secrets held within those walls started transforming into deeper meaning, a celebration waiting for them all just beyond every whisper that unveiled what had once felt mysterious. As Emily stepped back into the hallway, clutching the treasured photographs in her hands, she felt a rush of emotions swirling inside her. Each photo held fragments of joy and sorrow, laughter and love, an echo of life that resonated deeply within her heart. Looking down at Max, who stood beside her with his tail wagging gently, she had an epiphany about their special bond. It was more than just the companionship of a girl and her dog, it was an instinctive connection rooted in understanding something profound together. Max had always been there for Emily during her ups and downs. There were countless afternoons when she shared her dreams and worries with him as they lay sprawled on the grass in the backyard or while doing homework at the dining table. He would listen attentively, his big brown eyes filled with unconditional love as if to say everything would be all right. But now, as she gazed into those same warm eyes, Emily realized that Max had an intuition far beyond anything she had understood before. Every time he sat quietly at the door of the storage room, it was not just fear holding him back, he seemed to be sensing the weight of memories that lingered within its confines. The very essence of their home's history was intertwined with his instincts, a connection they both shared without needing to articulate their feelings verbally. With renewed curiosity, Emily knelt down beside Max and stroked his soft fur affectionately. "You knew all along, didn't you? You sensed it." Her voice was filled with wonder as she spoke directly to him. Max looked up at her, tilting his head slightly in a way that seemed to convey understanding, almost as if he was acknowledging their shared revelation. "It's like we're connected by something deeper," she continued softly. "You know how important our family is, how those memories shape us." The subtle bond they shared brought warmth into her heart. It felt like a secret language only they understood, a silent agreement that tied them together in ways words couldn't describe. The sunlight filtering through the window bathed them both in a warm golden glow as though the world outside embraced this newfound awareness. With each moment that passed, Emily felt herself becoming more attuned to Max's sensitivity, not only to what existed beyond their home but also to how emotions danced around them each day. In an instant, Emily's heart swelled with gratitude for having such an extraordinary companion by her side. She could see how much he cared for their family, how dedicated he was to keeping them safe both physically and emotionally. Perhaps it wasn't simply about fear after all, it was about love and intuition working hand in hand. As they walked back toward the living room together, Emily suddenly felt determined to include Max in this journey of understanding even further. "Come on. Let's go look at those photos together," she exclaimed excitedly, her voice brightening with enthusiasm once more. Once inside the cozy living room filled with laughter from Jake and their parents watching TV, Emily spread out all the photographs on the floor for everyone to see. She began sharing stories behind each image, pointing out familiar faces who smiled back at them from times long past, cousins laughing during birthday parties or family picnics when she herself was just a toddler. With every tale shared came moments where Max would perk up his ears or rest his head close against her leg while looking fondly toward each picture released from years gone by, all while comforting energies mingled around them like delicate threads bringing nostalgia alive again, the love wrapped tightly around every instant captured forever within frames made only of memories. Jake joined in on the fun, leaning forward as he examined each photograph closely alongside Emily and their parents who chimed in occasionally with laughter or comments about particular moments captured on film, each glance igniting warmth between them, further solidifying bonds strengthened over time through shared experiences spent together despite life's changes outside those walls. Amidst all this joy bubbling up around him though, one could spot Max lying close by watching everyone intently, a gentle guardian observing every interaction, and yet somehow knowing there were stories yet untold waiting patiently to surface over time too. Their universe expanded infinitely beyond simple moments seen right now, unfolding until eternity itself embraced what lay ahead for everyone gathered together once more under one roof, feeling complete again. For Emily, the connection between herself and Max deepened tremendously at that moment, not merely confined to an understanding born out of fear but blossoming into something precious woven entirely from love itself. A shimmering tapestry rich with history waiting patiently for generations yet unwritten, urging them forward ever more toward discovering truths around everything present past future intertwined eternally, creating endless possibilities wrapped indefinitely within everything called home. As the family gathered together in their cozy living room, surrounded by a wave of nostalgia and laughter, they couldn't help but feel a sense of profound understanding that had emerged from their experiences over the past 2 years. Max, their loyal golden retriever, now seemed even more cherished as each family member reflected on the journey they had taken together, a journey that opened their eyes to the depths of connection shared between humans and animals. The discoveries Emily made while exploring the storage room revealed a delicate tapestry of memories interwoven with love, loss, and joy, each photograph a poignant reminder of how intertwined their lives were. Together with her family, she learned that sometimes the things we cannot see or understand become deeply significant through trust and empathy. The secrets held within that small space didn't just belong to a forgotten past, they spoke volumes about the family's legacy, revealing how memories shape who they are today. Max's instinctive behavior took on new meaning. What once seemed like mere fear was now recognized as intuition and innate understanding of emotions and energies that surrounded them all. Through his actions, he guided not only Emily but the entire family toward a realization about respect for both the memories tied to their home and for Max's unique sensitivity to those echoes. He wasn't just avoiding a room, he was protecting his loved ones from something more profound, preserving the dignity of the memories enshrined within those walls. Max taught us something incredible, Jake remarked thoughtfully as he scratched behind Max's ears while they all sat together on the floor. He showed us how important it is to listen, to really listen, not just to each other, but to our pets too. His words resonated with everyone as they nodded in agreement. Their parents added stories of how Max had always known when someone in the family was feeling down or unwell, curling up close by silently offering comfort without asking any questions. This intuitive understanding reminded them all of how crucial it was to cultivate an environment where love flourished, built upon trust and communication across every bond they shared, even those with their beloved dog. "It's amazing," Emily said, her eyes sparkling with gratitude, "how much he's been part of our family history too." She looked at Max fondly, recognizing that his presence unfurled layers of companionship during moments dark or cheerful alike. He had seamlessly woven himself into the fabric of their daily lives. Soon after this moment of reflection, their mother decided they should create a scrapbook dedicated to all the discoveries made through those photographs, an illustration of cherished memories that would now continue to flourish alongside stories about Max's adventures. They could include spaces for shared anecdotes highlighting his importance while capturing new events so every future moment would remind them collectively about love enduring through time regardless of age or changes that may occur. As they huddled around materials scattered across the floor, glittery pens, colorful stickers, vibrant pages, the atmosphere filled with excitement echoed joyfully above walls infused with laughter once again. Each edition crafted carefully held intentions carrying messages rooted firmly nestled within every artifact collected along their journey. It painted an even greater story about unity forged from intertwined threads overlapping throughout life itself, wrapped carefully among their existed bonds. Fur and skin alike alive today, hand in paw, creating community residing together at home, eternal heartbeats connected forever. Through all their celebrations and reflections, illuminated colors combining unique histories encountered, twisting along shared paths crossed over time. They couldn't help imagine what tales lay ahead, waiting patiently beyond joyous horizons, promising journeys yet unseen. Ultimately, what transpired within those moments shared introduced timeless lessons, encouraging understanding stemming directly from love extended mindfully toward each being. A reminder for family members present during this heartwarming period, unfolding gently around them until eternity grasped hold through existence shared, wrapped inside creation, birthed anew, sustaining ever so gently, filled brightly textured spaces known simply with one word, echoing consistently among hearts bound together by grace amid cheers, resounding, illuminated vibrantly across lifelong legacies, built steadfast home.